Hi, Dunstan. This is Andrew Dietz. It's good to speak with you again. In regards to introducing myself, I'm an entrepreneur, a technologist, and a sustainability thought leader. I'm fascinated by the business challenges of meeting society's demand for water, energy, and food at the right price in a changing climate. I recently co-founded Climate Earth, which develops systems to quantify and visualize environmental impacts at both the product and enterprise level. In my 7 years of running business development for the company, I worked with a number of Fortune 500 companies to deliver systems to qualify and reduce their environmental impact. I work with leaders in those companies to understand how you systematize natural capital valuation or automate the development of environmental product declarations and evaluate the risk imposed on their business due to climate change. And kind of how do you get that into their decision-making process? Since exiting Climate Earth, I've worked as an independent sustainability expert with a variety of companies. In this capacity, I've helped companies reimagine the technology infrastructure for carbon credits. I've worked with a major retailer to build stores so they're built for deconstruction, and continue to help executives define their sustainability and CSR practices. Currently, I'm most interested, or really particularly interested, in helping companies develop sustainable supply chains and increasing stakeholder transparency. So your question about what is a carbon impact factor and what did we present in Paris? So we introduced at COP21 a carbon impact factor, or CIF, and it's a family of financial instruments to differentiate and reward carbon efficiency in commodity production, and we'll dive into the details of that in a second. What we found is that the CIF is an elegant solution for customers, multinationals, even investors who seek low carbon validation of low carbon production. To provide some background on, kind of how all of this came together and what we were thinking and how the idea started. It's important to understand two foundational challenges we identified. First, we're in the early stages of untangling vast, complex global supply chains. The current methods to measure total corporate footprints is cumbersome at best. So let's take a step even further back. So anything that you can touch, right? If a company sells you something that you can touch, likely 75 to 95% of the carbon footprint or environmental impact occurs in the supply chain, and mostly at the commodity level. To differentiate between supply chain footprint and operational footprint, a company has four walls. Anything that happens inside those four walls, driving trucks, lighting, refrigeration, etc., is their operational footprint. Everything that occurs outside their four walls is their supply chain for it. So let's take an example. Walmart has the equivalent of 7 San Francisco's. San Francisco is 49 square miles. Walmart has the equivalent of 7 of the city of San Francisco in indoor retail space. So think about all of the energy, lights, refrigeration, air conditioning to serve the millions of customers who walk through their door. Yet if we compare that operational footprint with what it takes to get all the products that they have on their shelves, manufacturing those products, transportation, etc., right? The supply chain footprint's supply chain footprint's over 95%. So that's just a quick example of kind of what supply chains are. The predominant method of how we measure this or how we assess corporate supply chain footprints is a fragmented certification system and supplier surveys, which yield mostly self-reported estimates of reduction. The first generation of programs to understand corporate footprints, such as Carbon Disclosure Project, Walmart Sustainability Index, has done a good job increasing awareness and the need for greater transparency. We see kind of the next step in these approaches is to provide greater scale and more verified or validated claims of reduction. Okay, so I think that the second major point is much more straightforward. The majority of carbon footprint for most products occurs at the commodity level, right? These are things that are industrially grown, that use a lot of power to produce chemicals or synthetic materials, or are mined. If we all want greener products, we need to pay the people at the base of the supply chain to produce cleaner commodities. Commodities are currently sold on price, and there's no differentiation for their attributes. So what we see is that there's a fundamental disconnect in the commodity producers' control of the footprint, but they're not rewarded at all for any environmental attributes like a lower carbon footprint. The CIF, or carbon impact factor, is a method to get the farmer and all other commodity producers paid for making greener commodities. So I don't think that this is another certification process. I think it's that certification processes are and solutions are they're rapidly evolving. The current market is fragmented and relies just too much on manual process. It doesn't really meet the speed or scale that we're looking for. Right? The right solution has to be cost effective, it has to be scalable, and has to be able to measure a lot of different impacts. You need to be able to create trusted benchmarks and best practice data. Right? So there's a lot that needs to occur there. The development of a mechanism such as a carbon impact factor to measure environmental intensity meets this need, right? And it meets the needs of suppliers, it meets the needs of customers, and it potentially meets the needs of investors too, right? And if they're looking for a verified or validated claim that what they're buying has a lower footprint. So how this is different, our approach is different in that we are creating a mechanism that will directly pay commodity producers to produce products with greater environmental efficiency. The current system has, as I said before, too many manual steps, does not provide sufficient financial rewards to the producers to change their method of production, right? If you think about a commodity, right, inherently, it's all just paid on price, and it doesn't matter if one is greener than the other or greener than the other. So what the paper talks about is combining proven and existing systems. We can measure on a global scale the efficiency of each commodity impact independent from the specific corporate supply chain it ends up in. So in some ways, if you think about commodities, they are highly aggregated, and we are disaggregating them again. So let's talk about what some of the ways in which you can do that. The key factors that make this possible today, I think first and foremost, is the proliferation of cell phones. A cell phone can be used for communication on a global scale. It gives us information around location in correlation with GPS satellite data to provide, kind of where are we. Technology advancements in blockchain, which is the underlying technology for Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, enables a trusted, transparent system that's immediately global, and then continued advancements in analytics or big data are unlocking previously siloed data. So in short, there is a whole bunch of new technologies that, if put together appropriately, allow you to know, where's the impact occurring, how big is the impact, and then track it with a global ledger, basically, that everybody has access to. So it's highly, highly transparent. What we're replacing is really, instead of, in place of untangling kind of gnarly supply chains, it's more straightforward to measure the impacts from commodities at the base of supply chain, independent from the specific corporate supply chains that they end up in. So let's think about an example. There's approximately 570 million farms on the planet, right? And agricultural commodities have a high impact. So using technologies I mentioned, there's an opportunity to better understand, right, what is the impact from one crop of corn versus another crop of corn. So this is hard, but it's not too hard, right? Compared to trying to untangle those big global supply chains, this is a much better approach. And then I think from an outcome perspective, it helps the gap in information and efficiency in what will end up being mapping of supply and demand. Commodity markets in general trade assets that are, as I mentioned, are undifferentiated. So low commodity producers, from sustainable farms to recycled oil to green concrete, can come to market in a very differentiated way. So the producer of a greener product has a way of differentiating. The buyer of a greener product has a more validated or verified claim. And the investor can ideally move capital from higher environmental impact production to lower impact production. So what's next for the project is we're in the midst of a pilot with multinationals and highly respected foundations and NGOs to develop a proof of concept. And we're excited by the progress and look forward to telling you more once we have some results. Dustin, I greatly appreciate the time to speak and look forward to talking to you again in the future. Thanks so much.